Welcome to the latest iteration of Interview with a CEO. Our guest today at the Australian launch of the Mercedes-Benz GLC SUV is Mercedes-Benz Australia Pacific CEO Horst von Sanden. Horst is a veteran of the Australian automotive industry, having first arrived here from Stuttgart in the year 2000. Over the course of his tenure, both Mercedes-Benz and the luxury car market as a whole have grown exponentially. This year alone, Mercedes-Benz sales are up double digits, and it's knocking on the door of the top 10. In addition to this, Horst serves as a director of the Federal Chamber of Automotive Industries, so he's really well placed to give us some insights into the car business as a whole. So, without further ado, let's have a chat to Horst. Thanks for joining us today, Horst.
My pleasure, Mike.
So Horst, the first question I ask in these, do you call yourself a car guy?
Probably would be difficult not to call myself a car guy after 28 years working with Mercedes-Benz. If you want to be more specific, am I a petrol head? No, clearly not. I love cars, I appreciate cars, I love driving them, I love their design, but I'm not crazy about it. And some people ask me, is it a good or a bad thing? I think it's actually a good thing because it makes me sometimes in my decisions a bit more independent.
What was your first car?
My first car was a Volkswagen Beetle.
Volkswagen Beetle, classic. Classic. You and every other young man in Germany at the time.
Probably, yes, yes.
Horst, you've been in Australia with Mercedes-Benz for 15 years now. When you first came here in 2000, did you envisage you'd be here for as long as you have? And what is it about Australia that captivates you so much?
It certainly was not in my plan. I came out on a normal 3-year expatriate contract. I was asked to head up the marketing team and did that after 3 years, which was exciting times because the company had started to grow. I was offered a promotion and take over as managing director for marketing and sales in passenger cars. So I was happy to take that because by that time I had actually, me and my family, we had fallen in love with Australia as a country, with a very exciting marketplace, with great people, with great weather, Melbourne sometimes. And it was very good and a great professional challenge for me. And that's how it started. And from then it went, I enjoyed what I was doing. We kept growing our brand in Australia. The challenges grew also, and so it kept me excited and busy.
Yeah, well, I mean, specific to Australia, it's really no contest as to who's the leading luxury brand. How do you explain the love affair between Australians and Mercedes?
I think firstly, there is a general love affair between Australians and cars. And certainly Mercedes-Benz always has been on people's mind. You're right, we haven't been market leader for a long time. And we had always good times, but we also had difficult periods which we had to overcome. I think success, it certainly all starts with great product, and we're blessed with great product. But it's more than that. It is also managing the brand professionally. It is building and living great relationships with our dealer network, our business partners. It is making sure that you never become complacent and never take things for granted. But again, it all starts with great product, and I don't want to take the credit for that. That is certainly created back home in Stuttgart, with our engineers and designers. But then again, this happens around the world, and as you said, we are probably one of the markets where we're a market leader, so we must be doing something right on top of the great product we get.
With some of your, I guess, more mainstream models of today, the A-Class, the B-Class, and of course the top-selling C-Class and the new GLC that we see behind us here, you're talking really big sales numbers, almost the sales numbers of a mainstream car. I'm curious, how do you balance being a premium brand and having exclusivity while having a lot of sales as well? Is it sort of a hard balancing act to keep those two opposable things in line?
I think it is a balancing act because sometimes we forget where the word exclusive comes from. It comes from to exclude, and from that perspective an exclusive brand is certainly not for everyone. But what we did, we clearly identified or defined the word exclusive for us, and it's as simple as saying we offer the best in every segment, and that is the objective, that's our strategy. And from that perspective, we haven't run into any problems. I think we're very balanced. We have kept the exclusivity of the three-pointed star alive, and we have at the same time managed to grow our volumes dramatically. We kept our loyal customers, And on the other side, we're currently more than ever before conquering a lot of new customers also. So I think we're pretty balanced, and we're getting strategically where we want to be.
Yeah, some months you're actually in the top 10, and so far this year you're knocking right on the door. Do you almost not want to be in the top 10? Does that kind of make it harder to sell yourselves as a premium luxury exclusive brand if you are?
I wouldn't say that. Look, the top 10 is basically a result of what happens in the marketplace, right? You have different competitors who have different product ranges, and sometimes one dominates more than the other. We actually don't look at the top 10. It doesn't give us any bragging rights if we are in the top 10. It's not our objective, and on the other side, it's also not our objective not to be in the top 10. We believe if we offer the right products and manage our brand well, we might or might not be in top 10. It's just a result of the market dynamics, so we're not watching that at all.
Daimler board member Thomas Weber told a few of us recently that there's potential to have even more models spun off the next generation MFA platform, so more baby-sized cars. Mercedes already has one of, if not the biggest model portfolio in Australia. Does it get to the point where it almost becomes a little unwieldy and unmanageable to have so many cars?
We all would like to make life simpler, but unfortunately that's not what happens. So we're not bringing cars because we love to complicate our work or bring more models out for the sake of bringing models. It is a result of customer demand, and the fact that we sell substantial numbers of every segment, and so do our competitors, we clearly see that there is a demand for all these different variants of products, and we will keep bringing more as long as there is demand, right? We will not invent a product where we don't believe a customer is interested in it. And from that perspective, whether we like it or not, we will have to manage the complexity which that brings with it, and if I look at our salespeople today, the amount of product knowledge they need, the psychological skills they need to navigate a customer through the jungle of product is enormous. That requires a lot of training. It requires a lot of everything, which we just have to provide.
Now, on the topic of success, Australia is one of the world's biggest markets for AMG. AMG sales as a proportion of your total range are massive here and higher than anywhere else. Why do Australians love AMG so much? And do you ever envisage a time when perhaps Australians might fall out of love with performance cars of that ilk?
I've asked myself that question many times. Where does it come from? Fact is, and that's what I realized when I first came here, more than any other nation in the world, Australians love high performance cars, and obviously AMG has a pretty good offering in that segment, and regardless of those questionable speed limits, there is certainly more to it than only being fast cars. They have a certain design, they have a certain noise they make, so they just intrigue people, they grab people's emotions, and I cannot imagine that this will ever change. We're seeing certain changes already where you can have high performance cars without necessarily having a V8 engine, but high performance cars with all that's part of it, I don't think Australians will ever walk away from.
Care to elaborate on that comment about speed limits?
Certainly there is a difference between speed and speed. I think for me a speed limit is important because of certain road conditions, and we do have speed limits in every country. Sometimes you question this simple slogan, speed kills, I don't think is correct, is accurate. I do not advocate unlimited speed at all, but I think a little bit more flexibility and sometimes, even less speed in certain parts on the roads and maybe a little bit more speed on other parts would be absolutely sensible. And for me, I think it's a little bit difficult to blame everything on speed only. It's a combination of the right technology, certainly. Good new modern motor cars can do a much higher speed than 100 kilometers per hour safely. But the most important part for me is great driver education. And I think there is a lot that could be done to improve driver education, because higher speed requires a very good qualification in handling a motor car. And this is where it's very important. And last but not not least also the condition of roads.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. To go to the other end of the spectrum, we know Mercedes-Benz has a utility coming based on the Nissan Navara. Tell us a little bit about that car. How upmarket can you really take a ute, and what kind of buyer would you be targeting with a Mercedes-Benz light commercial?
Look, I mean, a ute is traditionally, has been for a long time, is either a tool of trade or it's a lifestyle choice. And I think we will be offering a vehicle in both areas. And, you know, we do have in our van segment, we have tools of trade for a long time. And they just do a great job. They're reliable. They are, you know, good cost of ownership. That is one part. But the other thing is the lifestyle choice. And I think a ute will be no different to our other range, you know, where people just appreciate a luxury vehicle in that segment. And you know, it's expression of their lifestyle. It's their private choice. It's whatever they use it for. And even if they just use it because it looks good. So I think there is room for both the tool of trade, but also for the lifestyle vehicle, a ute.
I know you can't give away anything too specific, but could we see a six-figure ute potentially on the market? Is there potential perhaps for that at the very top end, do you think?
It's early days. We have just started to work on it, and it has been officially announced. We're by far not at the end of our strategy where we exactly know which variants are we bringing out, you know, which equipment levels. But I would say never. We will see what the market demands. We will see what the early success of when we launch it looks like, and then we will make ongoing product decisions.
Horst, you've put the Smart brand on ice, and I imagine with the currency situation being what it is, that whole business case probably hasn't improved recently. But do you see a time in the future perhaps when the Smart brand might return?
Look, it was actually, for me personally and for my team, it was not an easy decision to put the Smart brand on ice, as you put it, because I believe in this vehicle concept. You know, further down the track, certainly it might make even more sense. Yes, it was difficult to sell it in Australia. Maybe when we launched it, it was a little bit premature. The market was not ready yet. Then on top of that, it's the most competitive segment where it's very difficult to ask for a certain price tag and compete against those very you know, low-priced cars in the marketplace. I could well imagine that further down the track, if the circumstances change, that there is a place for Smart again, and we'll just wait and see. We have not basically decided to discontinue Smart for good. You know, we've just put it on ice, as you rightly said, and we will see what the markets will be doing.
And would you persist with the online sales model that you trialled previously with the brand?
We tried it out because it was actually a good area to test it. It worked to a degree. It didn't go crazy. And if Smart ever comes back, you know, we will have to look at the times then. You know, what are online sales models looking like? What does the car industry in general do? How is customer behavior? So it could be not. I couldn't tell you today.
I just want to touch on your role as director of the FCAI briefly. You guys recently came out swinging against fake counterfeit parts such as dodgy aftermarket wheels. What was the response to that big campaign that you launched? Did it get much traction, and did you notice it making an impact?
I think it did make quite a strong impact. Yes, we copped some criticism, and some of that was you just want to protect your own business. But on the other side, we received massive feedback where people simply did not know, you know, what risks they were taking when buying one of these non-authorized parts. And safety has been at the forefront of our brand forever, since we invented the car, and it never stopped. And a car is only as safe as its weakest link or weakest part, and if that weakest part is not a genuine part, you know, then customers put themselves at risk without possibly knowing it. And I think that definitely has changed. There is an awareness already now in the marketplace that we're not just asking a higher price tag on the same part, but there is a lot of irresponsible stuff in the marketplace which simply should not be put on any car, and especially not on a Mercedes-Benz.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today, Horst.
Absolute pleasure. I hope I answered all your questions, and thanks for your interest in Mercedes.
Indeed, thanks.